Hi kids, today we're going to learn about decimal place value. We are going to model, read, and write decimals to the thousandths place. We need to go back and look at our base 10 blocks and review what we use them for. In the past, we've used them for whole numbers, but the base 10 blocks can also represent decimals and fractions. We're going to focus our attention on representing decimals when we're using the base 10 blocks. We already have this in our notes. We already have this information in our brains about whole numbers. So let's focus our attention on decimals. When we look at the flat, when we're using decimals, we're going to remember that it is going to be represented as a whole. So this flat is one whole. When we are talking about a long, we're going to think tenth. And notice the TH is very important because it's tenth and not 10. 10 would be a whole number. Tenth shows us a decimal. This long is 1/10 of this flat. 1/10 of the whole. The unit is 1/100th. So 1 unit is 1/100th of the whole. And thousandths, we do not have a base 10 block small enough to represent thousandths. So what we are going to imagine is that the unit has been magnified or blown up so we can see it better. When we magnify the unit, inside we will see 10 equal parts, and these 10 equal parts represents thousandths. This is the model that we're going to be using when we are modeling decimals using base 10 blocks. Let's keep going and look at a place value chart. When we're looking at a place value chart, we're going to notice that there are two sides. The place value charts we've been working with are only showing whole numbers. This place value chart is going to show decimals and whole numbers. So as I'm going to the right of my decimal, so here's my decimal. As I'm going to the right of my decimal, I'm going to see decimal numbers. As I go to the left of the decimal, I'm going to see whole numbers. This decimal is read as the word and when we're reading decimals. For example, let's read these decimals. Since I do not have any ones or any whole numbers at all in the first three examples, I can simply say 2/100ths because 2 names the place that this decimal falls in. So I will say hundredths. 35/100ths. Since the 5 is where my decimal ends, it falls in the hundredths place. I'm going to say 35/100ths. This would be 496 thousandths because the 6 falls in the thousandth place. And this decimal would be 2 and 543 thousandths. Now, these are the fractions that I also referred to. If you will notice, for example, if we look at this, 3 is in the tenths place, and 1/10, remember that represents the long, our 1/10. If I wanted to write this as a fraction or a decimal instead, I would just replace this 1 with a 3, so it would be 3/10, and over here it would be 0.3, and that will also represent 3/10, like that. And I could do the same in the hundredths place as well as the thousandths place. Now, when I want to find the value of decimals, here are these same examples, but this time I'm going to look at the underlined digit. So this is 2/100ths, and I am finding the value of the 2, so I would simply write it as 2/100ths because this 2 tells me the value. This 3 is in the tenths place, so I look over here on my place chart, I can tell it's in the tenths place. So the value of this digit 3 is 3/10. Over here, the 6 is in the thousandths place, so the value would be 6 thousandths. And notice that I only need to represent the 6 in my decimal, but I have to make sure that it's in the correct place, that it's in the thousandths place. So since I'm not finding the value of this 4 and the 9, I'm only finding the value of the 6. I need to make sure the 6 is in its proper place, which is down here in the thousandths place. And I would need to make sure that the hundredths and the tenths place are represented with zeros to hold those place values. 2 and 543 thousandths, I want to know the value of the digit 2, and it would simply be 2 because 2 is in the ones place and 2 represents that digit 2. Now, when we are looking at modeling and using place value to determine how to write decimals, that looks a little different. So let's take a look at this section. This is 35 hundredths, and here's my model. This is a model of a flat. Now remember, 1 long is a tenth of the flat. If I'm looking at my 3, it's in the tenth place. So this is 3 tenths. So I will have to shade in 3 longs out of this flat to represent 3 tenths. Then when I look here in the hundredths place, there are 5 hundredths. So I will have to shade in 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's all I would need to do to represent 35 hundredths. 3 longs and then 5 units. Standard form, I would simply keep it as 35 hundredths, 0.35. Word form, 35 hundredths. The THS is very important. It distinguishes this from a whole number. And in expanded form, I would need to go back and show those fractional parts. Since the 3 is in the tenths place, I would multiply it by 1/10, and that is represented in my place value chart here, 1/10. So I'll multiply the 3 times the 1/10. Since the 5 is in the hundredths place, I would multiply 5 times 1/100th, which is shown here. So this is what my expanded form would look like. Now, let's take a look at another example of a model. This time, we are going to represent 496 thousandths. And so I go one digit at a time. The 4 is in the tenths place, so I shade in 4 longs. 1, 2, 3, 4 longs. The 9 is in the hundredths place, so I shade in 4 units. 9 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 units in the hundredths place. And now I have thousandths. So I have to show that this unit has been magnified and then shade in the 6 for thousandths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts shaded to represent thousandths. When I am writing this, 496 thousandths, 0.496 would be standard form. 496 thousandths in word form, remember our TH at the end, and then I would expand it 4 times 1/10 because the 4 is in the tenths place, 9 times 1/100th because the 9 is in the hundredths place, and 6 times 1/1000th because the 6 is in the thousandths place. And that would show my different forms. Now you are going to try some problems on your own. These are the your turn problems we would like for you to try in your journal. So you're going to use this place value chart to help answer the questions for your turn. So this will be a good reference for you to place your digits in to make sure that you are representing them in the correct manner. The first thing that you're going to do is write the value of the underlying digits for 1 and 2. And then 3 and 4, you have 2 models that are shown, and you are going to Look at the model and then write the decimal that is shown by each model. Make sure you have this information in your journal. Don't forget to do your whisk. And make sure you go to Edmodo and let us know that you have watched the video. See you in class tomorrow.